You can't own people, Harley. And then they walk out, and they drive away. And he's like, And then, Chad, we hear before we see her, well, looks like we're alone now. And he's like, oh, God, what are you? Oh, I'm whatever you want me to be. And then she grabs him. She grabs him, and she pulls him into the darkness. The candy goblin is our fucking hero. I don't know. At that point, I have no idea what happened to Harley. We never see Harley again, and we never see the candy goblin again, Chad. Like, who fucking knows what happened in that house that night? Better off not knowing, Chad. Now we can go ahead. We can get to the main portion of today's Twitch stream today, Chad. And that is my review for the Tyler Perry dramatic classic, Tyler Perry's Temptations, Confessions of a Marriage Counselor. And I have not seen this movie in a hot minute. It's been a little while for me, chap, but I'm of the opinion that Tyler Perry's best comedies are his dramas because they're so unintentionally funny. Now, I feel like, I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like this is probably the best, like, quality, like, drama of like, I guess, you know, compared to something like A Fall from Grace and Acrimony, which are just far goofier than this movie. If you compare it to, like, those other two films, like, you know, Tyler Perry's Temptation, Confessions of a Marriage Counselor isn't as bad as those. It still has some very unintentionally funny moments. Still has some awful acting in it. Don't you worry. Still has a lot of Tyler Perry isms, of course. But I guess compared to those films, it's not as bad. Still bad, in my opinion. Kind of also has a really messed up message at the end of it too. But let's go ahead and get right into it, chat. We start in this run-down looking marriage counselor's office, chat. It's in this huge office building. You got babies crying, you got ladies crying, you got men angry. It just looks like a mess. It just looks like a mess. And then the camera just, you know, we get closer and closer. We pan into the office of this marriage counselor, and she's working with this couple, and they're having some issues, chat. They're having some marital problems, and that's why they went to see her, of course, right? And our couple is Brad and Lisa. And Lisa, she's unsatisfied with her life. And Brad is like, I'm trying to, you know, just tell me what I'm doing wrong. She's like, it's not you. He's like, but what do you want me to do about it? And the marriage counselor, she's trying to calm him down. She's like, it's okay. We can just take a moment, and then we can continue this conversation. She's like, I don't know what to say. And, you know, Brad, and good old Brad, he gets up, Chad. He slams the door. He's upset. And Lisa is just like, I'm sorry. It's my fault. It's my fault that he's this way. And the marriage counselor pretty much says, yep, it's your fault. It's definitely your fault. She's like, excuse me? Well, how could you say that? Because you found yourself another man. And she's like, how did you know? And the marriage counselor, she has her glasses on. She takes off her glasses and she tells her, she's like, listen, I want you to be honest with me, okay? And in order for that to happen, I need to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you the tale. I'm going to tell you the story of my sister, Judith. And, you know, do you mind if I tell that story? And she's, yeah, I guess so. Even though it's technically, you know, my therapy session, I have to tell you about my problems. But no, go ahead, marriage counselor lady. Tell me about your problems. Tell me about your epic tale of your sister, Judith. She's like, don't worry, I will. And we cut you. It's a flashback. It's a flashback, and we're in the rural South here. We're in the rural South, and we meet Judith. And she's this little girl, and she's living with her mother, Chad, good old Miss Sarah. Everyone loves Miss Sarah. And Miss Sarah, she's a single mother, and, you know, she's trying her best to raise her little daughter, Judith, taking her to church 5 times a week, which I'm like, that's a little excessive. That's a little excessive to me, honestly, Chad. I'll be like, that's a lot. That's a lot. It's like, I understand, like, hey, and we go to church, you know, every Sunday, and that's what we do. But I feel like if you're, like, literally, not, you know, shaming anyone's religion or anything like that, but if you were taking your child, like, to church, like, 5 days a week, probably back to back to back, you know, I don't think that's exactly healthy for them. and just kind of forcing them and mandating them to just love Jesus. I think that's a lot. That might be a little too much. That might, I don't know, cause a number of issues later on. A number of issues down the road, I would expect. But I don't know, Chad. I don't know. I'm not a single mother raising a kid in the rural South. So what do I know, right? Anyway, Judith, she happens to meet this boy who's also going to church as well, and they just start bonding, chat, and they start hanging out at school, and they start hanging out after school, and as the older they get, the more their bond becomes stronger, chat, stronger indeed. And Miss Sarah, she's like, I don't want my girl hanging out with all those boys all the time, but, it can't be helped because Judith, she's clearly falling in love with this boy. His name is Bryce. And, Miss Sarah, she's watching him. I love that there's, literally, two adults get off the school bus. And she, and Judith's like, I tried to keep my romance with Bryce secret from my mother, even though they are handsy, Chad. They're handsy and everything. She's grabbing his booty cheeks and she's rubbing his abs and stuff, and he's grabbing on her tatas and grabbing her booty cheeks and things, but now they tried to hide it apparently. But Miss Sarah, she sees that. And, Judith, she later says, we wanted to get married, of course, but we thought, my mother wouldn't approve. We were just so young. We had all these dreams. And, we went up to my mother, and we asked her if it would be okay if we could get married. And we just fully expected her. To say no. And Miss Sarah, she was about to say, she's all like, yeah, go ahead and get married. Go ahead. Just leave me here. And then they did. And then Judith and Bryce, after they finished their education, they moved to the big city. They moved to the big city of Washington, D.C., and Bryce, he becomes a pharmacist, and Judith, she becomes a therapist, but her dream job one day is to become a marriage counselor, which is kind of weird, though. I mean, I feel like you'd have to get your own kind of personal experience of marriage in general before wanting to be a marriage counselor. I don't know. I just feel like that would be kind of essential. But I don't know. What do I know, Chad? What do I know? But before, Judith can become a marriage counselor, Chad, because apparently that is very difficult to do, she is working as a therapist at a matchmaking agency. That's what she does. Now, they try to portray, Bryce and Judith as if they are struggling, throughout the entire movie, monetarily. But they live in a very nice fucking, townhouse in Washington, D.C. In a very well-to-do neighborhood. It's they literally live in what looks like a brownstone. I'm just thinking, are you struggling? Because based on your home and your furniture and everything else, you look like you're pretty well off. But I don't know. What do I know, Chad? I'm not a pharmacist. I can't talk. A pharmacist. a pharmacist or a marriage counselor. In this case, a therapist. But good old Judith. She's she's working at this matchmaking agency, and she has this rival there, this rival who is always chastising her about her looks, about the clothes she wears, and who is it, chat? It's goddamn Kim Kardashian, who cannot act her way out of a wet paper bag. She is awful. Literally the first thing she says to our Judith in the movie, she goes OMG, why are you wearing those shoes? They are fucking ugly, okay? We wear heels here, okay? The heels, they show off the butt. Look at my butt. Now, I have to admit, Chad, Tyler Perry, as much as that man, praises Jesus and God and is always going on about how church is important, I noticed the camera was honed in on them big old Kim Kardashian booty cheeks throughout this movie. And, but, maybe I was the one that was looking at him most of the time. I was trying to. It's the one good thing about her performance, Chad, is her booty butt. But she's criticizing Judith's shoes. She's criticizing
Judith's like blouse and everything, and just terrible, just being terrible to her and everything. She's like, we have to present ourselves in a very specific, way here at this matchmaking agency, and girl, you are just not up to date, okay? We got to improve your dresses and what you're wearing. But Chad, with no time for that, no time for Kim Kardashian, her booty cheeks, because one of their biggest clients ever has entered the building, Chad. And he's being escorted by the boss. The boss, which, like, I'm going to call her Miss French because she's got, like, this French accent that sounds very, very fake throughout the entire movie. But we see Chad, and Kim Kardashian, we know that he's important because Kim Kardashian says, oh, my God, look, that is Mr. Harley. He's the third largest social media maker next to Mark Zuckerberg. I'm like, who is the top, then, social media maker other than Mark Zuckerberg? I don't know, Chad. We don't know these details, but the French lady, she's like, hey, my girls are here. Yeah, so good to see you. Come and join me in the office. We must talk to the Harley, the social media maker. And so they go into her office, right? And they start like talking to Mr. Harley and how, he's interested in trying to find a woman, which already I'm like, this seems like bullshit. Like this guy who's literally practically like a millionaire, probably 10 times over. He's made a huge like social media empire, and he's struggling to find a woman. I don't know about that premise already, Chad. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. But he for whatever reason, he just seems infatuated with Judith. Like he ignores the big booty cheeks of Kim Kardashian. And the French boss lady, she's like, oh yes, Judith, she is very good. And we learned that Judith apparently is not only trying to be a marriage counselor, but she's also like is trying to develop an algorithm of some kind to perfectly match people together. And, Harley being a social media maker is like, oh, well, I've been trying to work on something like that. I would happily volunteer myself to be a part of your matchmaking algorithm. And she's like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Let's do it. Let's do it. And he takes interest in her. And they start working on that. Meanwhile, we cut to Bryce. Bryce, he works at the pharmacy, and his boss is this old lady, Chad. She's the candy goblin. I'll explain why she's the candy goblin in just a bit. But the old lady's there, and with Bryce, who's counting the pills and stuff, and they have a new employee, Chad. I think her name is Melinda. And the old lady, apparently Melinda, she's going to be working on stocking shelves in the register. The old lady's like, listen, okay, I want to let you know that I check the register randomly, okay? And so I'll know if any money is missing, kind of implying that, well, you're a black and I just don't trust you. I just don't trust you all that much. And it's a very awkward scene, but Bryce doesn't want to say anything because this is like my only source of income, so I can't call the very old lady out on her racism. And Melinda, she doesn't look very well put together, and she's like, okay, I guess that's fine. I suppose I'll just get to stock. It's just like, yes, dear, go ahead and stock the shelves. That's what you're good for. And so she starts stocking the shelves. And, Bryce is like, Miss Candy Goblin? Yes. Is like, so I think Melinda's will do a pretty good job. She's like, I don't know. There's just something about it. I just can't put my finger on it. I just get this sense that there's something wrong with her. And Bryce goes, why? Is it because she's black? And she's like, no, dear, no, it's not because she's black. I'm not a racist, not at all. No, I think she's a lesbian. And Bryce is like, why? Why do you think she's a lesbian? It's like, well, dear, she doesn't have a ring on her finger. Did you notice it's laid bare? Look at my fingers. Look at the rings. I've had so many husbands. How do you think I was able to get this store? Of course, from your insurance. She's got none of that. She dresses like she's in high school. She's wearing a hoodie. Who does that?
Lesbians do that, Bryce. Let me tell you, I know this is your first time living in the big city right now, okay? You never crossed the river based where you were, all right? But I've lived in Washington, D.C. for 97 years, and I've seen many lesbians and the gays. Oh, my God, so many gays. So when I tell you someone's gay, they're gay, all right? That's what's going on right here. And then it's like, well, thank you so much, Candy Goblin lady. Eventually, we cut back to Judith. We cut back to Judith, and we cut back to Harley. And he starts filling out this questionnaire. They starts filling out this questionnaire, you know, for the algorithm. And Harley, you know, he's looking at Judith up and down, looking at them legs. Those legs, they're nice, chap, because she shaved the legs in the morning so they're nice and smooth, that she don't got like little stubbles or nothing. And he looks at her blouse, her frumpy-looking blouse that, you know, Kim Kardashian was making fun of. And he's like, I remember you from somewhere. And she's like, excuse me? It's like, no, I've seen you before. And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, I know where I've seen you. I've seen you at the park. You're always running. You're always running and jiggling at the park. And she's like, oh my God, I think I've seen you too. Yes, you're that guy who thinks he's a hot stud. Thinks he's hot stuff. Always running around without a shirt. He's like, that's me. I don't, you know, I take off my shirt, not because I'm putting on, you know, a show for the ladies. No, it's because I get hot. She's like, I'm sure. He's like, I promise you, that's why I do it. But maybe I'll catch you. Next time we're at the park. She's like, yeah, I guess so. And then she finally gets home. And then she gets home, Chad. She gets home from work. Bryce is there, and he's having a little downtime, Chad. He's enjoying a drink. He's watching the sports ball game. He's watching the football, and he notices his wife comes home, and she gives him a little smooch on the lips, and then she kind of walks away. She kind of like waddles a little bit, and he's like, "How was work, honey?" And she goes, she just flops face first on the bed. And, you know, she just starts complaining about her day. She's complaining about her Frenchy frog boss of her fake accent. She's complaining about Kim Kardashian and her collagen-filled cheeks. I mean, she's just like, but I did meet this really nice guy who's helping me with my algorithm. He's like, oh, that's fantastic, honey. That's so good. She's like, yeah, I just really want to get out of this matchmaking business. You know, I want to be a counselor. I want to actually help people. And, you know, I'm a good church girl. And I don't know, the way they want me to dress makes me feel like a whore sometimes. You know, they want me to show off some cleavage. They want me to show off my legs. I'm just not that kind of girl. And he's like, oh, I know, honey. But the thing is, you can't live out your dream quite yet. As you know, despite living in this luxurious brownstone that has like 3 levels that we all own, we're dirt poor, obviously. We're super dirt poor. And despite my 60-inch flat screen television and our entire kitchen, which you know is furnished with all sorts of amazing stuff, and just this lavish living room with our leather, not like, you know, like pleather, it's straight up fucking leather furniture, we are poor as fuck. And it's gonna take you probably like 15 or 20 years for you to have your dream job. That's what it's gonna be. That's just how it's gonna be, honey. You know, and I'm gonna be working for the Candy Goblin at the pharmacy store for another good 15 to 20 years before I own my own pharmacy. And she's like, I feel like we could probably get to where we want to be in a short amount of time. He's like, no, we just can't. We can't. We got to eat cheap food for the rest of our lives. He's like, but here's the thing, honey. I'm going to take you out on a fantastic night in the town. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you to a great restaurant, right? And she's like, we're not going to like a $4.99 buffet, are we? He's like, no, we're going to a $5.99 buffet. But she's like, honey, the food, all that rich buffet food, all the savory food, it gives me the farts. It gives me gas. He's like, don't worry, honey. I like that about you. I like a gassy girl. And so he ends up taking her to like this not $4.99, Chad. He's fancy tonight. Takes her to a $5.99 buffet, but she still gets all gassy. She still gets all bloated and stuff. She's like, oh God, oh. She definitely gets the farts, right?
And they're walking home. They're waddling her home from the buffet, and all these guys start like catcalling her, like, "Whoa, girl, look at you and them shaved legs and stuff." And that blouse actually compliments you very well. She's like, "The fuck you say to me? I'm a fucking church-going good girl, okay? All right, I worship Jesus. I go to church 2 times a week. Used to go 5, but 5 is a little much. You don't." And she fucking loses it. She starts attacking them, and the husband, Bryce, has got to grab her. He's like, honey, she's like, fuck you. And like, I don't know, Chip. I feel like, her childhood and her very domineering mother might have instilled a lot of anger issues in our young Judith. Just my thoughts. He manages to get her crazy, gassy ass back in the truck, and they drive back to their 3-story brownstone townhouse. They go to bed. She's and she's farting all goddamn night, chat, right? Eventually, it's the next day, and she's in the office, and the French frog boss, she brings Harley by because he wants to see Judith, and they want to go over the results of the algorithm and the questionnaire they gave him. See how accurate it is, right? And so they're going over it, and she's looking at all his results, and she's like, She's looking at him like, And he's like, "Oh, what'd you see?" She's like, "Well, according to your results here," and like literally the first thing she says, like based on the questionnaire that describes him as as a person, the first thing that she reads is, "Well, according to this, you would most likely have a bit of a mean streak." And I'm like, that's a red flag. He goes, "Oh, that's interesting. That doesn't sound like me at all. Maybe your algorithm's off." She's like, perhaps. Also, according to my questionnaire, you are someone who is in constant need of reassurance, and you're very observant, and it's hard for you to let things go. And he's like, I guess that's me to a degree. I mean, I have had a lot of success in my life, and I've always had a lot of passion towards my projects. And she's like, that must be it. I'm sure that's what the algorithm, what the questionnaire like found out about you. Not that you're like incredibly abusive towards women at all. It's like, no, absolutely not. Eventually, we cut to the pharmacist, the pharmacy, and Melinda, she's like kind of cleaning up for the night and everything, and she says goodbye to Bryce and the Candy Goblin, and she's like, "Well, I'm gonna head out for the night. So good job, team." And the old lady's like, "You did great, honey. You did such a great job stocking all the Vaseline and the cotton swabs. It was magical. It was magical just watching you." She's like, "Okay," and then she puts her hoodie up. And she has this ridiculously huge hoodie. It goes, boom, it's like a cloak, and it covers like her entire face. It's like, this thing is like 3 times the size. It's 3 times too big for her. She flips this over, and she just leaves the store looking like a fucking warlock out of the medieval times. And the old lady's like, "I just don't know about her." And Bryce is like, what are you talking about? She's like, "Didn't you see her?" And Bryce is fucking clueless for the majority of this movie, for like, 3/4 of this movie. He's just like, "What? She looked fine." He's like, "Didn't you just see that she has this hoodie that's literally 3 times too large for her? She looks like a sorcerer." "She looks like she's going to a Dungeons and Dragons campaign for all I know." "And did you notice how she was holding herself? She was like, she looked like a little dog, like a little pooch that was just, 90 pounds soaking wet. There's something to this girl. There's just something to her." He's like, "What do you think?" And she's like, I think she's a lesbian." "That's what I think she is. That's what I've always thought." And then she just proceeds to start like, "Well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to head home too. I don't have a hoodie to wear. No one bought me a hoodie." And she then opens this massive candy jar that's on like the counter, and she just starts like fistfuls of like toffee or like whatever she's grabbing, shit, or peppermint. I'm not even sure. Just boom, like, oh, like, wow, that's a lot. And she just keeps going. She just keeps going for it. And Bryce is like, why don't you just take the bucket? She's like, no, dear, I don't take the bucket, okay? I emptied the bucket in my purse, and then I come back in the morning, and then I fill the bucket up again, okay? I like my sugar. Mama needs the sugar, obviously. She's my fucking favorite character in this movie. Every time she's on screen, as racist and as homophobic and as ridiculous as she is, she's hilarious. And so she grabs all this stuff to take back to her little goblin horde. Eventually, we then cut to a Melinda who is just like, you know, she's very skittish, and she lives in the bad part of town, where you get the sense like this is where probably like Bryce and like Judith should live based on how they describe their lives. But she lives in the super sketchy part of town, and she looking over her shoulders, you know, everything. She goes inside of her apartment. I thought at one point like there's an abusive boyfriend, like in the apartment or something. She comes inside, locks the fucking door, all these different locks, and she grabs a baseball bat. It's like, just, you know, everything, and she goes inside of her kitchen. She's like, oh, God, oh, Jesus. It's like, okay, well, something's going on with her. I want to know what it is. I really want to know what it is. Eventually, though, we cut back to Judith and Harley, and they're working on the algorithm. And apparently, boom, there's a major fucking breakthrough. There's a major breakthrough in the algorithm, and they don't say exactly what it is, but it's more accurate than ever, I guess. Okay. And Harley's just like, wow, Judith, you know what? I have to say, you are very intelligent. You're driven, you're smart, you're beautiful, you're voluptuous. She says, excuse me? Oh, I said you're smart. And she goes, oh, yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. He's like, you know what? I have to admit, I'm surprised a girl like a smart girl, smart broad like you, is working in a matchmaking agency. And she's like, well, yeah, I mean, I do have my dreams. I want to eventually become a marriage counselor. And he's like, oh, wow. And so you want to take this algorithm to help you, like, be the best marriage counselor possibly? She's like, yeah. He's like, well, you know what? I honestly think you should go for it. I think you should absolutely pursue that. I think you would be great at being a marriage counselor. And with this algorithm, this is advanced stuff. Like, my company would actually be interested in this. And you know what? I mean, I would love to help you. And she's like, oh, well, that's really sweet of you. I really appreciate it. But, you know, my husband, you know, he says that it'll probably take like 15 or 20 years for me to realize my dreams. And, yeah, so that's kind of the situation. He goes, really? Well, your husband sounds like a fucking idiot. And she's like, excuse me? I'm just saying he sounds like a really lucky man to have a girl like you in his life. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. He's like, you know what? I have one criticism, though, about your questionnaire and your algorithm. And she goes, oh, sure. What is it? And he's like, well, I noticed there was a lack of questions about sex. And she's like, well, I'm a good Christian girl, and I don't believe in having sex before marriage. And he's like, and do you think that this whole world is filled with good little Christian boys and good little Christian girls that don't have sex before marriage? And she's like, well, I don't really care about that. But if you're making a fucking algorithm, like matchmaking people, I feel like that would be a very important aspect to have. Unless you're like, you know, maybe she's the one that invents Christian singles or something, chat, you know? Maybe that's what she's like, that's what eventually she intends to create, for all I know. But honestly, Harley, who's pretty fucking creepy, he does bring up a good point there. He's like, well, you know, I mean, you know, a lot of people are having sex the whole time. She's like, you know, Harley, I'm not really feeling comfortable about this conversation. And he's like, well, that's the thing. And they start like walking out of the office. She's like, I'm gonna go. I'm done for the day. And he's like, well, that's the thing though, Judith. Like, sex, it should be random. Sex should be like how the animals do it. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah. It's like, how do you and your husband do it? And she's like, that's a personal question, but I totally understand. But I think this is important for your work and for your algorithm. I'm just trying to get the answer. She's like, oh, okay. So how do you and your husband do it? It's like, well, you know, in the bedroom, we do it on the bed. Okay. But, you know, sometimes like sex should be in the shower. She goes, oh, sex should be in the living room. She's like, oh, yeah. Sex should be in the kitchen. She goes, okay, yeah. Sex should be in an elevator. And she's like, all right. Sex should be in a public restroom. And she's like, I don't know about that. Sex should be in a dumpster. And she's like, that's a little too dirty. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I've gone too far. But, just something to think about. Something to think about. And she's thinking about this. She's thinking about this as she goes home. And eventually, like, her husband, he's in the kitchen. And because, husband don't cook. Husband don't cook, chat. So he's like, I was waiting. I'm hungies, babe. And she's like, don't worry, I'll make you something. But before I do, mama needs some food too. And he's like, oh, you want me to order out? She goes, no, I want you. And she like grabs him and just starts beating the shit out of him. She's like, yeah. And she slaps him like, he's like, ah. She says, yeah. You've been a bad boy today. Ow, baby, what are you doing? She's like, yeah, I want you to be bad to me. Slap me. And he's like, okay. And he like taps her. She's like, no, you fucking bitch. I want you to slap me. And he's like, where? Like, on my ass. He's like, okay. And he like slaps her a little bit. She's like, yeah, pull my hair, you fucking pussy. And he's like, baby, what's going on? I don't like this. She goes, I'm sorry, baby. I just want to try something like a little different. I just thought it'd be kind of cool to have like sex in the kitchen and you're like slapping me around a little bit and you're pulling my hair a little bit and maybe you knock me out or something. He's like, no, I don't want to do any of those things. She's like, okay, it was asking a lot. We could try again tomorrow. And he's like, okay. And then the next day, she's like, well, I'm going to go. I guess it's the weekend or something. And she's like, I'm going to go for a jog. And so she goes to the park because she wants to see Harley. She's going to keep an eye out for him, chat. And of course, she comes across him and they just start running. They start running in the park and he's like, I'm going to fucking get you. And she's like, chase me. He's like, he's doing a fucking Tom Cruise run, like chasing her, chat. And she's not looking where she's going. She's like, this is so much fun. We're irreverent. And she fucking runs smack dab right into a cyclist, chat. This cyclist is like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. She's like, ow, my ankle, ow. And Harley's like, the fuck you do, dude? You fucking hit my girl, dude. And he fucking runs up on this guy and starts just shaking him. She's like, oh. I love the cyclist. The cyclist is one of my other favorite sporting characters. It goes Candy Goblin. And then I had to say the cyclist after that because this guy's reaction is like, oh. But it's funny, though. I kind of understand why he's reacting the way he is because he's still on the bike and he can't get his balance. And Harley, like, straight up grabs him and just is, like, kind of pushing him. So the guy's like, he's on one leg. But then, what's her? Judith. She's like, Harley, stop. It's okay. He didn't see me. I didn't see him. He's like, okay. Yeah, all right. Well, watch where you're fucking going, dude. Asshole. He goes, I'm so sorry, bye. And he's like ADR, like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. And he cycles away, bikes away. And Judith, she tries to get up, but she's got a derpy leg now. She's like, oh, my leg. He's like, is your leg all derped up? She's like, it's super derped up. He's like, here, I'll take you back to my place and I'll mend your wound. And so he lifts her up and they instantly transport her to his very beautiful looking apartment. And he's attending to her leg and things, getting the ice and wrapping up. She's like, wow, your apartment looks like beautiful, Harley. It's so beautiful. He goes, yeah. Hey, I've just been thinking for a little while. Your husband sounds like a bitch. And I want to please you. And she's like, excuse me? He's like, well, based on everything you've told me, your husband, he's not really like into like, being very experimental and like having fun and like pleasing you and stuff. And you like, as your algorithm pointed out, I'm a very observant and very caring man. Okay. And like, I really like I like your hairy neck and your veiny pulsating temples. And I'm just really into it right now. Like he like picks out these very specific details about this woman. He's like, you could have said like, your curves, your ass, your legs. He's like, no. I like your hairy neck your werewolf neck, and I love your veiny, pulsating temples. Probably because she was in horrific fucking pain, right? And she calls him out. She's like, whoa, 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 whoa. First of all, don't call my husband a bitch. And second of all, I don't want you talking about my hairy werewolf neck or my pulsating veins on my forehead. Thank you very much, okay? Avert your eyes. Thank you, sir. And he's like, Judith, come on. He's like, and they start going back and forth and everything. But then, ding dong, there's the doorbell rings, and she's like, "That's my husband." He's like, "You called your husband?" He's like, "Yes, I called my husband Bryce to pick me up." And so so the door, they go to the door, and of course, Harley has his shirt off, right? And she's like, "Hey, baby, hey." He's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And Bryce, and Harley's like, she's okay. She just took a little spill in the park. This fucking asshole ran her over. But thankfully, I was there to help her. And not you. He goes, "Oh, well, hey, man, thanks. I appreciate that. The game's on right now. So, honey, let me take you back home, and we can get that ankle iced up, and we can fucking watch the football." And she's like, "Okay, all right, I guess so." And so eventually they leave. And, Judith, she's horny, and she wants the sex, but the husband's just not registering that at all. And so she's kind of like, fuck. And so then it's like the next day at the office, and the secretary there, the head secretary, is like, "Oh, there's flowers for you." She's like, "Oh my God, it's so great because it's my birthday today." We find out it's her birthday, and she sees the flowers, but the flowers are not from her husband, Bryce, which we would think. No, they're from Harley. And she's like, "Oh my God, Harley sent me these flowers." And, Kim notices, Kim Kardashian, she's there, and she notices the flowers, and she's like, "Did your husband give you those?" She's like, "No, they're from Harley." And she's like, "Oh, really? Really? Harley sent you those? The way that you look, he's impressed of you." Like, she's always like fucking attacking her, the way, like, the clothes that she's wearing. She looks fucking great. Like, it's Journey Smollett who is playing the character of Judith, and she's like, "You're just a fucking mess." Journey, you just don't got it together, girl. Not like me and my giant collagen butt. And she's like, "Look at you." She's like, "What do you mean? I'm changing my outfit. Like, look at my shoes. I got like gold tassel butterflies on my shoes." And she's like, "Listen, okay, I know you think you're all special, putting makeup, and it's more than just that, okay? This is not makeup, honey. You know what we call this here in this office? This is a make down." I'm thinking, like, God damn, her dialogue is terrible. But any case. Oh Lord. Eventually Harley shows up, and he wants to talk to Judith, like, really bad. And the French boss is like, oui, I'll take you to Judith. And Judith, pushes past Kim Kardashian. And Harley, he wants to be honest with her. He wants to be honest with her. And he's like, "Listen, Judith, I know that I said some things when you were in my home, and I'm sorry that I made you really uncomfortable. It's just that I feel like we have, like, a really special connection, like, sexual connection. And I feel like you should just leave your stupid bitch of a husband, and you should just get with me." And she's like, "You do not know my husband, okay? He's very caring." And he's like, "But you can't please you, can he?" I got that sense as soon as I met him. He's a wet paper towel. He's a wet paper towel you can just rip up easily and dispose of. Whereas me, I'm the fucking brawny man, baby. I'm your brawny man, okay? And I can please you like that man has never pleased you before." And she's like, "I'm sorry, Harley. I'm just not into this, okay? No, thank you. You don't know my man. And we then go back home. We go back home where Judith is she's confused, and she's horny, and she just doesn't know what to do, and she's in bed. She's like, "I just don't know." And then her husband comes in, and he's like, "Hey, baby, how am I joining you in bed? Just a second. Just gotta get changed." She's like, "Okay." And so he goes off screen. And then he comes back, and we hear this guitar. I'm thinking, like, this is an interesting part of the score. This sounds weird. And we see him dressed up as Cowboy Curtis from Pee-wee's Playhouse. in full Lawrence Fishburne regalia. He's like, "Hey, how you doing there, Pee-wee?" And she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm being sexy for you." And she's like, "Well, come here, Mr. Fishburne." And they proceed to make love in full Lawrence Fishburne regalia. It's what we always wanted to see on Pee-wee's Playhouse, and we saw it. We finally saw it here. It's just Pee-wee, Herman. We saw Paul Rubens and Lawrence Fishburne just fucking, and it was beautiful. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. But then, it's a stressful weekend because Judith's mother, she is, oh no, not yet. I'm sorry. We're not at that point yet. That's actually something else is happening. Something else is happening. So we eventually go back to the office, and we find out that Harley is having this big social media gathering to debut the algorithm that him and Judith have been working on, and everyone's excited about it. And they're going to present it it's like this conference in New Orleans. And so the French boss basically says, let me just warn you, you are entering the big leagues right now, and Harley he is a tough man. He is a very tough man, and you must be careful, mon ami. And she's like, okay, I don't really know what you're trying to say to me, but yeah, cool. And so she then goes to New Orleans. She boards his private jet. Oh, that's before she goes. She asks Kim Kardashian, Kim, I know that I called you like a skanky bitch, yesterday, but... And because you insulted me and you said I have a make down. Well, now I need you to make me up for my trip to New Orleans. And Kim Kardashian's like, girl, I can fucking do that. And we get a montage of Kim Kardashian getting this giant fucking caulking gun and sticking it in Journey Smolier's Judith's ass cheeks, and that thing just blows up. Chad puts her in a nice tight dress and smacks her and sends her on her way, Chad, to the grand city of New Orleans, baby. And where then we get two back-to-back montages. Chad, we get a glow-up montage, which wasn't necessary because Journey Smolier looks pretty goddamn good to me. And then we get another one where it's just Tyler Perry showing off New Orleans. We go to Bourbon Street. They're eating fucking, crawfish and shit. Like, they're just playing. They're just throwing crawfish at each other. They're throwing crawfish at each other in jambalaya. It's a smorgasbord. And then, they're on their way home. And then the private jet. And, they've just been bonding with each other. They really like each other. And Harley, he's just like, hey, so I really want to fuck you right now. Can I touch you? And she's like, no, you can't touch me. And he fucking just walks up to her and just grabs those tatas, and they go to town, and they start smooching, they start hugging, and yes, Chad, they start a stooping. That's what's going on, right? Meanwhile, we cut back to Melinda. At one point, and Melinda, she got all freaked out because she saw something a couple of days ago. It's been messing with her head, right? And finally, Bryce and the Goblin Lady, the Candy Goblin, they're asked Melinda, we see you're so nervous, you're shaking, you're making the customers very anxious. What's going on? Okay, just tell me. I'm like your mother at this point, okay? Bryce is like your father, I'm like his wife. I feel like that's how close we are now, Bryce. I feel like I'm your spouse, and we share all each other's secrets. That's what we do. So, honey, tell us what's going on. She's like, okay, I'm sorry to make the customers nervous. It's okay. It's all right. I've made a lot of people nervous. I made all my ex-husbands nervous, and then they went away. That's what happens. It's okay. So tell me what's going on. And she's like, I got out of a really abusive relationship, and I've just been scared that my ex has been stalking me and hunting me like Kraven the Hunter from Spider-Man. She's like, oh, that's what it is? Oh my God, you're just dealing with ex-boyfriend, but I thought you were a lesbian. That's what I thought you were. And she's like, no, I'm not a lesbian. She's like, okay, it's just what I thought. I'm sorry. You were giving me the signs. She's like, how was I giving you the signs? You're dressing like a hobo. That's what the gays dress like. That's what I've been told. It's what I've seen on the news. She's like, no, I got out of a really abusive relationship. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then Harley starts opening up because he's like, yeah, no, I'm so sorry you're going through that right now. We're very happy to help you, obviously, you know, and, you know, we're going to protect you. We're going to protect you. She's like, yes, you know, I'm right there, Holly. I'm going to tell you right now, honey, this is what we're going to do. You just give me his name. You give me his address, okay? And we'll take care of it. I've done this many times before. And we'll just go there. We'll watch him for a couple of days, okay? I'll sneak in. You know, despite my age, I'm very athletic. I have the abilities that you just don't expect with me. I'm a woman of many secrets. I'll just crawl into the air vents. I'll kind of decompress myself because I'm old. And my bones, they're kind of like gelatinous at this point. And so I'll hide in the vents, and I'll wait there for him. And one night when he's asleep, I'll just kind of wriggle. I'll wriggle out the vent, and then I'll just kill him. I'll just suffocate him. I'll either use my gelatinous body or my goblin strength of the candy. You know how much candy I have in my bag? It's like a concrete block in here. I can just smash his head open, and that's it. He'll be fine. And she's like, I don't know if I want to do that. She's like, okay, well, maybe we can just, you know, take a Valium. I have an entire store. It's a smorgasbord of Valium. I'm like your Willy Wonka, except instead of candy, it's pharmaceutical drugs. It's like enough to just take out a herd of elephants, okay? So let's live tonight. Let's live tonight like we've never lived before. And so I assume that's what they did. And And eventually, what's his name? Harley. He drives Judith home. And, you know, Judith feels kind of bad because she just literally is having an affair now at this point and cheating on her husband. And she's like, Harley, I'm sorry. I just don't want to do this. She's like, just leave your stupid fucking husband for me, okay? I gave you everything you could have won. She's like, Harley, just no. And then fucking Harley, he pulls up with, Bryce, he pulls up with Judith's mother, Miss Sarah. And, you know, Harley's being very loud. It's like, come on, let's just go. And Bryce, is everything going okay? And Judith's like, oh, it's fine. We were just working on the algorithm, and we just had this idea, and I just, you know, Harley's just super excited about it. He wanted to get this one detail down, but, you know, I'm just really tired. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep your wife away from you, man. It's the last thing that I want to do. I just, you know, just got a lot on my mind. You know how it is. He's like, oh, yeah, cool. And Miss Sarah sees them, and she's like, oh, she just gets a sense. She gets that sense about him. He's like, oh, who is this? And she's like, oh, this is my mother, Miss Sarah. And he's like, well, it's very nice to meet you, Miss Sarah. She's like, nice to meet you too, young man. Very nice to meet you as well. And so he's like, well, I'll see you tomorrow, Judith. Right? I'll see you tomorrow. And so they leave. And then the mom makes, like, Miss Sarah, she makes, like, the shittiest fucking spread of food I've ever seen. It's like, I expected better. You know, from like a mama like her. But, man, she get like the shittiest looking mashed potatoes, the shittiest looking green beans, the driest looking cornbread I've ever seen. And I don't think that fucking chicken was even. I don't know. It was either chicken or something they made. And it looked like it was boiled. And I was like, this is an appetizing fucking meal. What the hell is this? And the mom is just the worst. The mom is just like, oh, you're still living here, huh? This 3-story brownstone that we're somehow paying for. And she's like, well, eventually, once you earn a little more money, perhaps you'll find a nicer place. I pray to God every night that you'll all eventually come to your senses and come home and live with me. But you want the big city. You just want that big city life, that big city living. So, you know, I guess I'll just be home and die. I guess I'll just die alone. And I'm just like, oh my God, you are an abusive mother. Very psychologically abusive. And Bryce is like, ha, your mom's hilarious. I'm gonna go watch football. That's what I'm gonna go do. And so, you know, Judith is just talking to her mom. And the mom is just berating her and just making her feel like shit. And she's so controlling and just making Judith feel shitty. And eventually Judith's like, all right, fuck this. And she eventually calls Harley. And he's like, oh, you're calling me? She goes, yeah, I just got into a fight with my mom, and I'm just really stressed out, and I can't talk to my husband because he's watching football. And he's like, football? What a jerk. Yeah, well, I can be here for you, baby. I can give you what you want. I know how to please you. That man though, that wet paper towel that you can just tear up, he ain't good for you. I'm good for you. The thing is though, Judith, if you're going to come over here, you're going to be mine, okay? You want to be mine, baby? And she's like, I need to hear you say, yes, I will be yours. And she's like, yes, I will be yours. He's like, well, get that fine ass of yours here and let's fucking do this thing. And so she goes, and Miss Sarah's like, where are you going? And she's like, I'm going out, Mom. I'm going out. She's like, this late at night, it's 7 p.m. It's practically bedtime. And she's like, yes, Mama, I'm going out. And so she leaves, and she goes to, what's his name? Harley's apartment. And he just grabs a hold of her and says, I'm gonna make love to you so good, girl. Say that you want me. He's like, I want you. Say that you're mine. And say that I'm yours. I'm yours, baby. Yeah! And they fuck. He picks her up, and he's done up the whole bathroom. It looks like a Gothic cathedral. It's like, I think Batman was in a corner just staring at him. Just staring at him, Chad. It's like the cathedral from Batman 1989, the one that the Joker took Vicky Vale up. It looks just like it. And so he's just stooping her in the tub. They're having sex right there, right? It's great. They're having sex in the bedroom. They're having sex in the kitchen. Just a lot of sex, right? And then eventually it's the morning, and she's making him breakfast, a good old Southern breakfast, chat, right? Which is, I guess, it's just bacon and eggs. That's what that is. I didn't know the South is like, we invented bacon and eggs. That's because she even says a good Southern breakfast is like, that's just fucking scrambled eggs and bacon. That's anywhere in the world. But all right, fair enough. And he's like, oh, baby, I don't need that. I mean, that's very nice of you. A wonderful, very filling, robust Southern breakfast. No, this is all I need. And he takes out this giant bag of cocaine. And he takes out like a little scooper and goes, oh. And she's like, oh. He's like, hold on. And this is the first nostril. He takes out another one. He's like, oh, that's some good. Yeah, all right, gotta get it going. You want some? You want some of my breakfast cocaine? And she's like, when in Rome. So she takes out a little scoop and goes, oh, Jesus. And it's like, yeah, it's pretty good, right? Yeah, it's pretty good. Well, listen, loved last night and everything. So when are you going to leave your stupid bitch of a husband? And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, we fucked in like the bathtub. That I made out to be like Tim Burton's 1989 Batman. You know, we fucked in the bedroom. We fucked in the kitchen. You made me a Southern breakfast. I shared my breakfast cocaine with you. So we doing this thing or what? She's like, I don't want to leave my husband. She's like, well, you're just a dumb bitch then, aren't you? She's like, excuse me? And she's like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, get the fuck out of my apartment. And she's like, fuck you, dude. And she like starts picking up like muffins and starts throwing muffins at him. She starts throwing muffins at him. I think she throws like, I don't know, a papaya at him at one point. And he's drinking wine for breakfast, which I'm not against that. You know, I've had my mimosas and stuff. It's weird to drink like straight up red wine for breakfast. And she just fucking takes his glass of red wine, goes, ah, and she throws it at him. He's like, and he just gives out the most evil laugh. He gives out 2 evil laughs in this movie. This is the first one. He goes, that's the first one. And then she waddles out of the apartment, chat. And eventually she goes, this escalated very quickly. She eventually she goes home, and she's like, you know, she's also high on cocaine at this point because she's never like put any like drugs in her body like at all. And so she's just fucking erratic. And her mom, Miss Sarah, is pissed, and she's like, I see the look in your eye, Judith. You have the devil in you. You snorted the devil's drugs, didn't you, you ungrateful child? And she's like, fuck you, Mom. fuck you. And she's like, I know, when I first saw him, I had the feeling that the devil himself had walked up in my daughter. You've accepted that demon seed in you, didn't you? And she's like, yeah, you know what? I did. You know why, Mom? Because he makes me feel fucking good. Unlike you make me feel like shit my whole life. All right? Just like you made Dad feel like shit, okay? That's why he left you. Like, holy shit. And she's like, how dare you, child? How dare you speak of your late father? May his soul rest in heaven, eternal heaven forever. And she's like, Mom, you're a fucking liar. The thing is right before I graduated high school, I was researching my dad that you said was dead. He just lived in the next county over, and I went to see him, okay? And he was really nice to me, and he said that you want nothing to do with him because your parents didn't want you to get together because I would have been born out of wedlock. That I was a bastard. He wanted to marry you and support you. So fuck your mom. Fuck you, Mom. You're a goddamn liar, all right? You know what? And he's like, you know what I'm going to do? She's like, what are you going to do? You're going to go back to that devil who fills your belly with his seed. He's like, yeah, and I'm gonna enjoy the ride. And the mom goes, just slaps the shit out of her, and she's like, fuck you, Mom. And she leaves. Now, to be fair, the mom is very abusive. The mom is both emotionally and psychologically and physically abusive. So I'm just like, I don't really know who to cheer for here. I guess I kind of my favorite characters at this point are the candy goblin lady, the racist, homophobic candy goblin, the cyclist, the very scared white cyclist, and I guess Melinda at this point. And Bryce doesn't know what the fuck is going on half the goddamn time. He's like, football? He's like, no, Bryce, no. And so she goes back to Harley, and he's like, so the bitch came back. She's like, yeah, I'm your bitch now. You got more of that coke? He's like, I got that booger sugar for you, baby. And they start getting all fucking coked up and shit. And then eventually, it's after the weekend, montage of coke and drugs and whatever. And then then she goes back to the office, and the Frenchy frog boss calls it, and she's like, yes, they must talk to you, Miss Judith. And she's like, that's not my last name, but okay. And she goes to the office like, I know that you have been getting advice from Harley to start your own marriage counseling business. As you know, in your contract, apparently you cannot talk about potential new jobs, and so I am firing you. You are fired. You are no longer a part of my company. Goodbye. And she's like, okay. She's like, all right, I'm not gonna question at this point. I'm just gonna go. And by the way, I know that you aren't actually French, okay? I know that you went to Paris 10 years ago and that you just started using that accent. I know you were born in fucking Georgia. You lived in Georgia for 40 fucking years. And one of my favorite lines in the whole movie, she literally says, the French boss, she says, get the hell out of my fucking office, bitch. She's like, that's what I thought. That was pretty good. That was a pretty goddamn good reveal. And then eventually, Melinda, she ends up like talking to Bryce and the Candy Goblin woman, and she knows like what's going on and about. Bryce is, because he's really depressed. Like, Bryce is super depressed at work, and the Candy Goblin woman and Melinda are asking him about it, and the Candy Goblin woman is just like, Bryce, I don't want to pry. I'm not that kind of woman, even though I'd kill for you. Like, again, I would sneak into someone's home. I would hide in the ventilation systems, my bones, they're like collagen, and I would snuff out a life for you. Doesn't matter if it's a man, a woman, a child. I killed the whole family for you. That's what I do. But I've noticed, Melinda, excuse me, it's a lot of candy. I just noticed that, you seem very distant. You seem aloof more than usual. We know that's kind of your default setting, but usually you say that for, and when you're at home. But here, you're very attentive, but now you're not attentive. What's going on, honey? You can tell your goblin lady. And he's like, my wife, she's just not coming home late at night, and she's not cooking for me anymore, which makes my tummy grumble, and I'm just really sad when she's not there. And she's like, oh, that's
yeah, I think she's having an affair. I think she's fucking another guy. She's like, you think so? He's like, yeah, I do. I think that's exactly what's happening right now.
And so Bryce eventually finds out that Judith is going to this nightclub with Harley, and he goes into this nightclub, and this nightclub is like hell itself. It's just like people are just half naked. They're drinking heavily. They're doing coke off each other's asses. It's just like, I thought I saw like a little demon imp just go, just scamper across the dance floor. And eventually, the thing that alerts Bryce to Judith and Harley's location is Harley's laugh, which he's pretty much depicted as Lucifer himself, like Satan. And because we hear this yes, yes. And then he finds them, and we see just these girls that are half naked dancing in front of him. Judith is coked out of her fucking mind. He's just fucking down in drinks like it's water. He's like, yeah, baby, yeah. Whoa, almost fell over. Hold on. Daddy needs a little bit of a bump. Oh. He's like the Joker. I was like, holy shit. And then Bryce, he's like, oh, the debauchery, the hedonism. Oh, it's so unholy. And he's like, Judith. Judith's like, what? He doesn't even know what the hell's going on. Come with me, Judith. She's like, get your hands off me. I'm Harley's girl now. And she's like, no, you're not. But Harley's too fucking... He's too high. He's too stoned. He can barely move. He's like, the bitches always come back to me, Bryce. And so Bryce drags her out, and she's like, don't fucking touch me, you bitch. She's like, don't speak to me that way. And she's like, I should have told you this. I should have told you this years ago. I feel nothing for you. Nothing for you. Get out of my life. Harley's the guy. He believes in me. He says that I can be the greatest marriage counselor ever, and I don't need you anymore. He's like, and he cries, and he drives away. And eventually he meets up with Melinda. Melinda comes over to comfort him. And, you know, Melinda is just like, I'm so sorry that she just did that to you. Listen, I have a very abusive boyfriend, and the breakup was crazy. And he was very mean and abusive. And listen, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time to recover. But I'm you know, me and the candy goblin, we're gonna be there for you. She's gonna, you know, give you candy and maybe possibly kill someone, and I'll be there, you know, if you need someone to talk to. And he's like, can I fucking make out with you? And he tries to make out. She's like, no. You're hurting, and you're just trying to find some comfort. And that's not what I'm going to comfort you, not sexually. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to try to do that. I did try to, but I'm sorry. She's like, it's okay. You're hurting. And so eventually, it's later on, and Judith arrives with Harley to pick up more of her stuff to take over to his apartment. And we see that the mom, Miss Sarah, who's still there at the apartment, the 3-story brownstone, which is, you know, again in the sketchy part of town, allegedly, she has brought in all of her fellow church ladies. And also a couple of priests. She's about to perform an exorcism, chat. That's the power of as soon as Judith walks into the goddamn room. Miss Sarah stands up with the Holy Fathers and starts going, the power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. The demon seed is in you, girl. The demon seed. She's like, Mama, I'm not here for you. I'm here to pick up more of my clothes. That's what I'm here for. She's like, how could you do this?
this to me? I'm your mother. I gave birth to you. How can you be so cruel? Look, I bought you baby pictures.
And then Harley comes over. She's like, we're not here for that, Miss Sarah, okay? She came to get her clothes. Leave her alone. She's like, you're the devil. You're the devil incarnate. I knew it, so I saw you, that you would cast your evil black spell upon my daughter. You a horrible human being. And he's like, no, and he pushes her. And she's like, oh, and she got a bad leg. She got a bad hip. She had derp. She got derp hip and derp leg. And she fucking tumbles down like, oh, good heavens. And she was like, oh, shit, mama, let me help you up. She's like, oh. And Harley's like, she'll be fine. Let's fucking go. And she's like, but my mama, she's like, she's fine. And they go out, and Miss Sarah's like, oh, my daughter, she's lost. She lost her way. Sweet baby Jesus, save my daughter, please. And eventually they go back. They go back home, and Judith is very, very upset that Harley pushed her mother down the floor. And she's like, listen, Harley, I just need to get out of here for a few days, okay? You should not have pushed my mama down the floor. And he's like, baby, she was manipulating you, okay? Maybe I shouldn't have, pushed her, but, the bitch deserved it. The bitch fucking deserved it, okay? Someone's gonna push that bitch on the floor at some point. She's like, don't talk about my mama that way. She's like, well, I could talk about her any way I want, okay? And she's like, what gives you the goddamn right to talk about my mama that way? Okay, she's not your mama. She's not the mama that fucking gave birth to you and abandoned you at that crack house when you were born. And I was like, whoa, when did this come up? And she leaves the conversation, and she goes to this walk-in closet, and I'm like, I don't think you should have said that. I think that might have been a step too far. I think you literally just lit the wick of a fucking bundle of dynamite. And he's like, I didn't know if he's going to cry or throw up. And he's like, I need my shit. Oh, baby needs his shit right now. And so then he goes to his little cabinet in the bedroom, and he opens it. He's looking for his bag of cocaine. He's like, baby, where's my fucking breakfast cocaine? And she's like, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. Your breakfast cocaine, it's in the kitchen. He's like, baby, I fucking left my breakfast cocaine here. I need my breakfast cocaine. She's like, well, maybe you shouldn't take your goddamn cocaine right now, okay? You acting a fool right now. And he's like, don't tell me I'm acting like a fucking fool. I'm a fucking genius, okay, bitch? And he goes in the closet. He's like, where you going? He's like, I'm leaving, okay? I'm leaving. You acting all crazy right now. He's like, bitch, you ain't going nowhere. And fucking smacks her. And she goes down, hits her fucking head on a drawer. And I'm like, that ain't good. That's not good at all. Eventually, we come from that situation. And we're with Melinda. Melinda has invited Bryce over to her really sketchy, fucked up apartment, because she's gonna make him a good Southern meal, which is apparently Chef Boyardee. And he has Southern cooking, chat. It's bacon and eggs, and it's Chef Boyardee. That's good old Southern cooking right there. And she's just, Bryce is still sad and stuff. And he's like, yeah, she's just with this guy now. And I think he's being a bad influence and making her do drugs. And he's like, probably having sex with her. She's like, yeah, probably. And she's like, listen, her soul, hopefully she'll be saved, but you got to help obviously to a degree, but she's also got to help herself. Obviously that's what I had to do. I wish you the best of luck. And Bryce is like, wow, you're really great, Melinda. I know you're not interested in me. That's totally cool. I get it. You got to go on your own path, your own journey. And I hope you find a nice guy. And she's like, if I do, it'll have to be under a very specific, circumstance. He's like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I have HIV. And she's like, oh, he's like, I'm so sorry that you have HIV. Oh my God. She's like, yeah, he didn't tell me that he had HIV. And then I got woozy all of a sudden. And then I went to the doctors and I've been diagnosed. And I've been living with it. I take my medication. Don't take my medication. And I'm doing the best I can. He's like, well, again, me and the candy goblin, we'll be able to help you, anytime. She goes, yeah. No, but I appreciate that. You guys have been great, despite, her thinking I was a lesbian, been pretty cool with me. And I'm just so happy that I'm no longer with Harley, who gave me HIV. And he's like, what? Harley? She goes, yeah, Harley, the social media magnet. Yeah, that Harley. He's like, that's oh my God. She's like, what's wrong? He's like, who's my wife is with. That's who she's been cheating on on him. There's like, oh, and she's like, what? He's like, I gotta go get my wife. She's got the package. Chad, she's got the package. And so he fucking takes off. He takes off. Melinda's like, I'm coming too. Yeah, that fucking guy, I'm coming too, that son of a bitch. And they pick up the candy goblin. She's like, what's going on, dear? I gotta watch my stories. It's almost past my bedtime. It's like, my fucking wife is cheating on me with Harley, who beat up and gave HIV to Melinda. That's the one. And she's like, all right, well, let me go get my knife and my guns, and we'll kill him, and then we'll save your wife. And she's like, let's fucking go, candy goblin. And so they take off in the fucking his truck. They're loaded up on all their guns and weapons and shit. And eventually they pull up there. They all go inside the house, right? They're looking for Judith. They don't know where Judith is. And eventually, Bryce, he goes into the bedroom. And fucking Harley is he's knocked the fuck out. Like, he found his breakfast cocaine, and he's been drinking like vodka straight out of the bottle. He seems to be knocked out, but he sees this blood trail on the ground. He sees this blood trail from the closet to the bathroom. And so he goes in there, and he sees Judith just like kind of half conscious, and she's like bleeding from her head, and like one of her legs looks like it's broken, and she's just like, like that. And she's like, I got you, baby, I got you. And he's like carrying her out. And then Melinda gets in there. Melinda, she, they don't know where the candy goblin is. They have no idea where she went. We're unsure of where she is. They're calling for her, but she hasn't appeared. And so, they're carrying her out, but then they hear some commotion from the bedroom. He's like, where'd that bitch go? Where'd my bitch go? And then we just see, because they're like on the second floor. Like, it's kind of like this kitchen that kind of you got to walk down into. And they see Harley at the foot of the stairs. Like, where you be taking my bitch? And it's like, we're getting her out of here. You beat her, and you've been giving her drugs, and you gave her HIV. And he's like, I did, and she's mine. He just takes he takes this big bump of cocaine, and he's like, let's fucking go, dude. Let's fucking fight. And Bryce is like, Melinda, get out of here. Take Judith with you. She's like, are you sure? She's like, yes. And he fucking squares off with a coked up Harley. And they start wrestling. They start throwing fists and shit and everything. And meanwhile, the candy goblin, she's just in the corner of the ceiling just watching, like, yes, this is very entertaining. Just like my husband. Just like my first husband. When my first husband fought my second husband, and I watched them in the ventilation shaft. And so they're fighting. And eventually, Bryce, he just grabs hold of Harley, and he pushes him through, they just crash through this fucking window, into the kitchen, like, oh yeah, like Kool-Aid Man. And Harley hits the back of his head on the floor, just, like the shredding floor. He's like, oh God. And Bryce says, that's what you fucking get. And you fucking get, stay away from my wife, you son of a bitch. And then Melinda walks in, and Bryce sees her. He's like, oh, Karen. And her name is Karen, Chad. Her name isn't like Melinda, which is like, oh, I guess she changed her name to hide from him. And she's like, I'm not afraid of you anymore. And he's like, Karen, please, or Kathy, where the fuck your name is, I don't remember. Like, come, help me, baby, help me. I'm not yours anymore. And she's not yours anymore either. You can't own people, Harley. And then they walk out, and they drive away. And he's like,
And then, Chad, we hear before we see her. Well, 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 looks like we're alone now. And he's like, oh, God, what are you? Oh, I'm whatever you want me to be. And then she grabs him. She grabs him and she pulls him into the darkness. The candy goblin is our fucking hero. I don't know. At that point, I have no idea what happened to Harley. We never see Harley again, and we never see the candy goblin again, Chad. Like, who fucking knows what happened in that house that night? Better off not knowing, Chad. And then we fade out, and we're with the marriage counselor again. We're with the marriage counselor, and she's like, yeah, and that was the story of Judith. And the patient, Lisa, she's like, holy fucking shit. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna leave my husband. I'm gonna end the affair right now. I'm gonna be honest with him, and I'm gonna work on my marriage. And the marriage counselor is like, good. And she's like, what about Judith? Did she get the HIV? And she's like, she did. She got the HIV. She did. But she's managing with medication. She's trying to live her best life. And she's like, oh, how did her story end though? She's like, oh, it's still going on. Still many chapters left. And she's like, I hope Judith has a happy ending. And she's like, me too. And then we cut and we follow the marriage counselor out the shitty office that she works in, the shared office space. And she's dressed in this really frumpy looking clothes. And she's got like this, she has like a waddle now because it looks like her leg got like really messed up years ago. She's got like a hobble. She's like Tiny Tim from fucking, the Christmas Carol chat, just like this. What happened to this poor woman? And we see as she's going to this office, and Laurie's like, oh, it's a pharmacy. It's a pharmacy. She opens the door, and we see Melinda, who hasn't aged a day. She looks completely normal. And she's like, oh, hi, Judith. It's like, oh, my God. Fucking the marriage counselor was Judith, Chad. That wasn't the marriage counselor's sister. The marriage counselor was Judith. It's like, holy shit. She aged like 20 years. And she's like, I'm just here to pick up my HIV meds. She's like, oh, yeah. Bryce, he'll get it ready for you. And she's like, yep, sounds good. And she waddles up there, and they got, Bryce is wearing the shittiest Tyler Perry wig imaginable, Chad. This high top. And he's like, hey, Judith. She's like, hey, Bryce, how are things? Pretty good. And she's like, nice. And she's like, well, your doctor wants you to get your T cells up, so he's gave you an extra dose of the HIV meds this month. She goes, yum. He goes, yep, yes, indeed. And then the pharmacy front doors open, and we hear this little kid go, Daddy! And we see this little boy. He's a cute little kid. And then we see, he's next to this just fucking hot woman, just like, God damn. I was like, Jesus. And she's like, hi, honey. He's like, oh, honey, I love you. Come here. Oh, my family, my beautiful family who I fucking love. And he just starts making out with his wife, and he's hugging his son. And he just looks at Judith, and Judith's like, all right, well, next month then. So she hobbles out of the fucking pharmacy, and this sad music just starts playing, and the lyrics are like, you fucked up, you stupid bitch, you left a good man and you got HIV. I'm like, oh my God. That's how the movie ends. And that, my friends, is my scene by scene breakdown for Tyler Perry's Temptation, Confessions of a Marriage Counselor. I hope you enjoyed it. Who knew this was a comedy, right? Oh, my Lord Jesus Christ. What the hell? And why hello? Why hello, Giant Elfman? Oh, and I saw some people coming, Edgy Berserker, Kathy. Tyler Perry wig unlock. It was at the end of the movie. The very end of the movie. That's like a video game. Edgy, good to see you. I'm sorry if I missed your did you raid me earlier? Let me see. Edgy, thank you for the raid. Witness me.
thank you so much. Glee, thank you for the 125 biddies. And CMH Mad Dog with the follow. Thank you so much. It's cool. You were talking about nose candy, the booger sugar. Oh, my Lord. What a fucking movie. My favorite character, though, is the Candy Goblin, which I'm kind of sad we didn't see her again after that night. We have no idea what happened to her. Oh, my God. I just don't know, I had to help my friends, my lesbian friend, She says she's not a lesbian, but the signs are there. That's all I'm saying. And Bryce, he's nothing without me. Oh, Christ. I knew the plot twist was the marriage council was you. Yeah. So as soon as the story starts, like, that's fucking her. You ain't my sister. I'm like, yeah, okay, your sister. Yeah, sure. Oh my God, so goddamn good. Whew. She should have listened to that coach from Mean Girls. Yeah, point. Yeah, it's true. Adam Sandler. Was I doing like my old lady Adam Sandler voice? I just don't know. That's the voice that she had. She sounded like an old Jewish grandma. Oh, chat. Well, that was fucking fun. Whew. It's been, I haven't done like a lot of these spoiler reviews in a hot minute. So it's like, kind of getting back into it, chat. It's like riding a bike. You never forget, but it's like, hey, let's, once you start pedaling, baby, it just fucking picks up. It just picks up. Oh, Christ. Don't have sex. Yeah, that's the moral of the story is, according to Tyler Perry. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, Judith mentions before she leaves, like, well, now that she's like derpy, like, and they aged her like 30 fucking years too. They aged her like 30 years compared to Melinda, who looks the exact same. And now that she's like, in her legs all messed up, she's like hobbling all the time now. They also have it where, she, can't find a man anymore. And she now just goes to church with her very psychologically and abusive mother. It's like, Jesus Christ. So it's like her life was just fucking ruined. I guess she helped that one lady, Lisa or whatever her name was, Brad. But still, it was the HIV. Was the HIV gave her the stanky leg? Did it rot her leg? The hobble to her bobble. Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's so true. The hoy to Manoy. I love my HIV-free family. Hi, Judith. And he's like, he looks at her, he's like, all right, you can go now. I was like, oh. Judy Smollett can't find a man. Well, no, they changed the actress. It's I don't think it's Journey Smollett who plays the marriage counselor. It's a different. Wow, it's so funny. So you know who I've never seen this act. Maybe I've seen her before, but the actress who plays old Judith, quote unquote, her name is Candace Coke. She did have a lot of coke, chat. She had a lot of booger sugar later on in her life. Holy shit. Oh, so funny. So, but the thing is, though, what's so funny about this, just about these movies is this is probably the most tame of Tyler Perry's dramas. Well, maybe not, at least the ones I've seen. Because Acrimony, which I've done a review for, I recommend checking that out. Acrimony and A Fall from Grace, I think, are far more ridiculous than even this.